right now. You know who would actually really love it there is Dan Campbell. I hear they got a lot of kneecaps in Vermont, tall kneecaps, shorter kneecaps. Kind of a big thing in Vermont for the whole skiing thing. And after his comments, I guess that makes sense.
Wait, Yoni. I'm not sure.
You know, like the kneecaps with, and you ski with the poles and the snow and up to the kneecaps. That Dan Campbell,
Oh, we have explaining to do on this episode of Monday Night Call with Yoni and Paul. We are so excited to get started. AFC NFC Championship is completed. We are gearing up for the Super Bowl. Yoni, I know you're excited. I'm excited. Let's get into it. Come on the fan line. Come talk to us. Come hit us with your opinions for the next 5 years when Tom Brady will be in the Super Bowl.
Yep. I'm wearing my Tom Brady Michigan jersey today, and that's kind of a sign of I'm kind of rooting for him, but it's his college jersey, so I'm not totally in on it. I decided to not wear a Patriots jersey, so that's kind of my in-between. We'll get to our opening statements and more, but I think this is a record. Talking about 20 seconds into the show, Adam is first on the fan line. Happy to have him on. I had the pleasure of watching the conference championship games with him. We'll get his perspective as a Patriots fan, a football fan. We are so happy to have him on.
Gentlemen, I just try to raise that bar every week, just really try to be the first one in, as any super fan would do. So happy to get the call. How are we all doing tonight?
Doing well.
Good. Adam, we appreciate it here on Monday Night Call. Always glad to have you.
Yeah, glad to have you guys. So my first question is, let's talk about quarterbacks. Who had the better game, just quarterbacks on Sunday, Aaron Rodgers or Tom Brady?
Well, I think it's tough. I would say
Tom Brady, 3 interceptions. Aaron Rodgers, better statistically, but couldn't really perform in crunch time. Who had the better game?
Yeah, I mean, I'm still going to go with Tom Brady just because, yes, he had more interceptions, but I think what really matters is there's inefficiency in the red zone. That's got to be his number one thing. They got themselves all the way to the end zone. They weren't able to execute, and I think Aaron, he should complete that. Jonah?
I think I'm going to say Aaron Rodgers. I'll say right now that if Tom Brady throws 3 second-half interceptions in this Super Bowl, there is such a low percentage chance that Tampa Bay will win this football game. And a lot of those interceptions were just the pressure was coming, he threw it up, wasn't even close, and the Packers came down an interception. You gotta capitalize with Aaron Rodgers, and they kicked a few too many field goals, but I think Tom Brady, he's got to be more on top of his game for this Super Bowl. I give the edge ever so slightly to Aaron Rodgers.
Yeah, Tom Brady, 3 interceptions in the second half, like you said, only 7 completions in the second half. One statistic I looked up that was interesting, and Tom Brady, in his career in the playoffs, 44 career playoff games, 80 touchdown passes, 38 interceptions. So if you round out, really only 2-to-1 touchdown and interception ratio, which is solid, but not as good as you think you would when you think of Tom Brady in playoffs. But really, when I fell in love with Tom Brady as a Patriots quarterback, it wasn't because of the numbers he put up. It was because of how he played in the fourth quarter of this game. Despite those interceptions, he's a winner, and he won. And Aaron Rodgers proved that he was not a winner. So I would give it to Tom Brady, but really not the day we expected from 2 of the best quarterbacks in the NFC. I'm trying to think. This is one of the most fun seasons I've had watching football, partially because the Patriots weren't very good and the pressure wasn't there towards the end of the game. But I just think a lot of compelling storylines. The COVID, while obviously, we didn't want to have it and the health scare is no fun, made it all very interesting as well. I really enjoyed watching football with no fans, and you could sort of hear the banter on the sidelines. But the quarterbacks, again, I think there's some really compelling quarterback stories going into the offseason, and matched with a very good quarterback class in college football. Other than the Deshaun Watson saga, what's your guys' favorite quarterback story to follow moving forward?
Well, this one might be very personal, but I'm looking to see the Sam Darnold, Justin Fields, Zach Wilson decision that the Jets have to make. It feels like they can go in a million different directions, whether it is trading for Matt Stafford, Deshaun Watson, or sticking with Sam Darnold for the next few years or drafting a rookie quarterback. And then all of that has implications on what do we do with our second pick? Do we trade down? Do we stay there and take the best guy available? So, or do we trade it? So that's what I'm most looking forward to seeing as a Jets fan.
I'm going to say Ben Roethlisberger, and I think that's a little bit of an unpopular opinion because of all the quarterbacks, as you said, in this quarterback saga right now. I think he has more job security than what Matt Stafford is going to have, than what Matt Ryan has, even what Jacoby Brissett has now, the lead man in Indianapolis. I think it's Ben Roethlisberger because as poorly as they played towards the second half of the season into the playoffs, he was the head man for a team that won their first 11 games, and he is getting up there in age. But, can he still be the guy to deliver them another AFC North title? Maybe. He might be able to with a healthy James Conner, again, with Juju and Chase Claypool staying healthy and Deontay Johnson out there. Eric Ebron deciding he knows how to catch footballs. Also a big part of it. I'm very interested to see if the Pittsburgh Steelers just try to move on from Ben Roethlisberger in his old age, or they try to, ride it with him again and again and again.
There's actually one more I had in mind that totally forgot about just because he was injured for most of the year, but Dak Prescott and the Cowboys, I think it's very interesting just because he was begging for that huge contract at the beginning of the year, said he'd ride it out and try and, see what he can make of himself, and got a crazy injury. Let's see if the Cowboys are willing to pay up.
Yeah, I like those a lot. I'm with Paul. There were two that I'm sort of fighting between, as sort of 1A and 1B. 1B is Mitchell Trubisky. Do they pick up his option, or do they make a really franchise-altering decision to let him go? And the second one is Carson Wentz, because I think all signs are pointing that Carson Wentz is going to be out of Philadelphia, but most teams would jump all over him because he is a very talented quarterback, and I'm really excited to see where he would go. So just so many quarterback controversy story to go on. Adam Schefter released a list of 18 teams that do not know essentially who their starting quarterback is going to be next season.
Wow.
So strap yourselves in. It's going to be a bumpy ride. All right. Enough banter. It's time for reaching over here. Natural light, nectar of the gods, the bold prediction. Nectar of the gods for over 3,000 years. Now, I have to say that with each passing week, the bold prediction is a little harder because there's sort of less games to speculate on. But I'm going to do everybody a favor. I'm going to tell you where Deshaun Watson's going next season to keep you all so you don't need to be riding in suspense. And it's going to be a doozy, so strap yourselves in.
Let's hear it.
Deshaun Watson has been playing in Houston, which is a big city, but is not really known for many things other than their strip clubs. And I know this by listening to the morning show on 98.5 because really all they do every morning is just talk about strip clubs. I don't know how the show has not been taken. How every conversation they have just gets to cities and how good the strip clubs are. Deshaun Watson has had enough. He wants to go to the big city. He wants to go where football is appreciated. It's a big sports town. It's not just like a dead football town. He wants to go where offensive-minded head coach with a quarterback who's pretty good, but they're going to cut ties. It's going to be expensive, but they're going to cut ties with their starting quarterback to bring in Deshaun Watson. It's going to give them the edge to overtake their division and take over the Super Bowl. Deshaun Watson is going to the LA Rams next season. Jared Goff had his time. He couldn't get it done. He had the weapons. He had the running game. He had the offensive line this season, and he was not performing. The Rams are going to sell the farm for this quarterback, have him for 2 years, and that's going to be their window. And that's a bold prediction by Natural Light, and you can take that to the bank.
Yeah, I've heard some other reports coming out of the Watson camp that Massachusetts Pirates owner Jawad Yateem is offering Watson up to $500 a game. That's going to be hard to pass up. He's never really done anything at the arena level to compete with an NAL MVP like Sean Brackett. No. I think it's an interesting take. Especially there's just a lot of Jared Goff slander in the media recently. And I think the one thing that'll hold him back is something you kind of mentioned is that it's going to be expensive to cut ties with him, that it's not as expensive as the Lions let go Stafford, and it's not going to be as expensive as a move to move on from Ryan or Roethlisberger. But you got to be sure you got the guy to come in if you're going to, just piss away $25 million. You got to be really confident, and I think Deshaun Watson could be that guy. Your bold take last week is both games would go into overtime. That did not happen.
One of those games,
hope-
first of all, one of those games should have gone to overtime. And second of all, from what I've heard from my inside sources, Jawad would probably pay Deshaun Watson more than the Rams would pay him because apparently he's got the connections.
I can neither confirm nor deny. Adam, thanks so much for coming on the show.
Yes, pleasure, guys. Have a good evening.
So with the take on Deshaun Watson, how would that occur though? Do the Rams have the draft capital to go and make that happen? That would be my question. I don't think they do. They've traded first round picks for Jalen Ramsey, right? Like,
yeah, I mean they'll trade Jared Goff in the deal, so they wouldn't just cut Goff, and that'd be hard, to have the Texans pick up that salary. But they could trade other guys. I mean, they have other assets. Would you trade Robert Woods? Would you trade Cooper Kupp, even though you just drafted him? Would you trade Cam Akers? John Johnson, who was a Pro Bowl snub this year for the Rams, who's a great talented safety. Would you trade him? Possibly would you trade Jalen Ramsey? I mean, I really think the only guy who's like truly untouchable on that team is Aaron Donald.
Right.
So I think they would have to give up picks and more. We're going to talk about the quarterback controversy and more. One thing we also are going to get to later in the show, the Pro Bowl is coming up next week. We want to hear your Pro Bowl takes, biggest Pro Bowl snubs, underrated Pro Bowl selections. We'll talk about that later in the show. But for now, we got Matan coming on the fan line. The Mortal Lock picked the Packers on the money line. I feel you, Matan. I picked the Packers to win the game as well. They're going home after the NFC Championship again. What do you have to say for
There was some focaccia bread type situation happening on that field. I would not be surprised if Matt LaFleur and the referees were in on it. I've never seen anything like that. To kick a field goal in that situation was insane to me. Some accountability. I think Rodgers obviously should have ran that ball. It's easier said than done. But he's playing with AAF level receivers other than Devontae Adams, if we're being honest.
That's not true. Sorry to go so
yes,
high.
Yes, it is.
But Alan Lazard is good. They're better than anyone else in the Patriots. If I'm a Patriot, I'll take Alan Lazard. I'll take Marquez Valdez-Scantling. Equinemius St. Brown is a solid number 4. And you've got Robert Tonyan, who's an above-average tight end, and Mercedes Lewis is a vet, and you have 2 great running backs.
I think I'm with you, Tom. I think they could have used like a good rookie wide receiver. They drafted Jordan Love over that option, and you see where that could have helped.
Higgins would have been great in that situation. And Yoni, I want to pick at you a little bit because you think if you put Marquez Valdez-Scantling, Alan Lazard, any of those guys that you just mentioned on a team with a solid quarterback, but not Hall of Fame MVP level like Aaron Rodgers, they would be anywhere close to the productivity that you see from them?
I mean, not close. I think they could still do well. They wouldn't be maybe the number 2 guy, right? If Alan Lazard went to Cleveland, he'd be the number 3 guy. And I think Alan Lazard is a solid number 3 in Cleveland, and he would not draw as much attention and take
Jacoby Myers would be the number 2 receiver on that team, by the way. I think he would completely change how that game would have gone, if I'm being honest about it.
I guess.
I was thinking about it before I came on the fan line, trying to piece this whole Aaron Rodgers situation together because, you have this wildly talented player who, the Packers, I feel like nobody thinks of them as this organization that's been down because they had Favre going into Rodgers. But when you look at the tools that Rodgers had around him for all these years and the coaching and all that stuff, it reminds me kind of ooh, do you guys hear that?
No.
You're good.
Okay.
Keep going.
Okay. But it reminds me of LeBron James before he left Cleveland and Miami, where it looked like nothing was ever going to come. None of the stars were going to come to Miami. Nothing productive was ever going to have in this organization because nobody wanted to go. They weren't drafting correctly. I kind of feel like Rodgers did everything he could under the circumstances. I think to kick a field goal in that situation was despicable. Adam, don't ever text me during the fan. Adam just texted me while I'm on the line, and that is wildly unprofessional. I've never done that to him. It's embarrassing. I'm embarrassed. I'm sorry I did that to you guys. And he completely ruined my train of thought. But I will say I appreciate the accountability. He had that awful take from last week. It did not come true. But yeah, Aaron Rodgers' talent has been wasted for years and years and years. I have ADD if you guys haven't been able to tell. And I think it's really sad, and I hope he goes to the Indianapolis Colts. I think it would be a great landing spot for him. I think they are a Super Bowl team if he goes there. That O-line could protect them. The wide receivers there, I think, are much better. I think Michael Pittman is really interesting as a prospect. And, like they drafted a quarterback in the first round, let him go.
Yeah, but I don't think the Colts are any that much better than the Packers situation. I mean, you got Aaron Jones, Devontae Adams right there, and a good offensive line. I mean, I guess the Colts might have a better offensive line. I don't know much about the offensive line comparisons, but in terms of offense, I feel like the Packers are better than the Colts.
I don't think so, and here's why. You have Jonathan Taylor, who looked really good in that second half of the season, who I'm very excited about. Michael Pittman, I'm excited about, and I think there's also some other tools there that he could use. It's more of a unified front in the way that there's 1, 2, 3 guys that he could throw to. The defense is fantastic over there. I think the fact that Phillip Rivers was able to do so much with that team, like he's not even on the level of Aaron Rodgers, especially at this point in his career. And Frank Reich, I think, is an elite head coach.
Yeah, first I'll say with the Colts, and this news is pretty new within the last week. Their franchise tackle Anthony Costanzo just retired after 10 seasons, so that's a little bit of a ding to the offensive line.
We still have Nelson.
Yeah, I mean, still have Nelson. I think the Colts. I'm not going to dig at you too much, but I think it's just kind of a soft take that he could do a lot. I mean, that division is kind of bad. So the Titans are good. They always overperform in the playoffs, but they drop a lot of games in the regular season. Like that team is just destined to go 10-6, 11-5. Texans are mega rebuilding and the Jaguars are mega rebuilding. So yeah, he could probably be successful in a division like that. Jonah Butler is saying Rodgers to the Niners is an interesting call. What do you think about that?
I mean, I like that. I'd love to see what he could do with Kyle Shanahan. I think like that team, the fact that they were able to do as well with all the injuries they had, and I like that take. I don't know what the Jimmy Garoppolo situation is, but
well, I guess that's if Jimmy Garoppolo were to leave, or get traded, he would he would step in and be the guy.
Yeah. And another thing is like I don't understand. I've been seeing a lot of mock drafts recently, and I know you guys do a whole draft show and everything, so I don't want to get too far into it. But to me, it seems really straightforward where Justin Fields is getting overlooked, and everybody's talking about Zach Wilson. But to me, it seems obvious. Like I guess you could look at Dwayne Haskins and get a little worried coming out of the same school, but that seems lazy to me. Like to me, it's simple. Justin Fields coming out of high school was this highly touted prospect. He was in an unfortunate situation in Georgia, went to Ohio State, played behind Dwayne Haskins, and then he came and he did some truly, you saw some hints there of truly special talent, and he has the mobility that you want to see out of a quarterback in 2021. I don't understand what the discussion here is.
Yeah, so I mean, from Jets' perspective, or at least Jets' perspective, which I constantly am on, the big thing is that Zach Wilson more fits the West Coast offense mold, with apparently a lot of like very quick passes, which is and staying in the pocket, so not running as much as maybe Justin Fields would. And so I think that's like the main draw to Zach Wilson. Maybe also comparisons to having a bigger arm than Justin Fields, so more like of a raw talent, kind of like a Josh Allen. That's like the draw to Zach Wilson. But I agree with you. I've been thinking like, why not just Justin Fields as a clear number 2? But again, they keep going off that like Kyle Shanahan's offense and Mike LaFleur want to implement that West Coast style offense, and the Jets are leaning towards Zach Wilson.
Matan, before we get on to your mortal lock quickly, Evan Ingram, James Bradbury, Pro Bowlers for the New York Giants. Your thoughts?
I don't know why Evan Ingram made it. Congratulations, James Bradbury. I've been saying performing at an all-pro level. Now, here is my hot take for the day. I have a Pro Bowler for you next year, possibly even all-pro level. Xavier McKinney, the flashes I saw from him in the very few games he played, I think he's a highly, highly touted player. I think we're excited to see him for a full season. I think he's going to be a top safety in the NFL next year.
Yeah, you stick him in the Landon Collins role, he might be able to do it. Let's get that mortal lock pick for the Super Bowl. Matan Rosenthal. Or NFL honors if you have a mortal lock that you definitely know someone's going to win an award. I guess we'll take that too.
Didn't Kelsey already win Man of the Year?
No, he didn't. Paul and I were talking about this pre-show. He didn't win Man of the Year. There was a fan-driven social media campaign that whoever got like the most mentions, retweets, stuff talked about them, they get money donated to their charity, which is not the same as winning the Walter Payton Man of the Year. This is a good precursor that he might win it, but he didn't win it yet.
I said that last week that he would win. I'm counting that.
I like that. And also, I was listening to broadcast, and they didn't make that clear to me, number one. Number two, I thought $25,000 for like this award they talk about every week was a little wimpy from like the biggest sports organization in the world, if I'm being honest. I'm not here to charity shame.
It's not the Walter Payton Man of the Year award. So let's get those mortal locks. You can do the awards, the games, one or the other. What's it going to be?
Well, because Matt LaFleur decided to ruin my NFL future of the NFC championship being the Packers and the Super Bowl champions being the Packers, I'm going to stick with my other future I had at the beginning of the season, Aaron Rodgers to be MVP. I am slamming that in. I don't know what the line is now. I doubt it's even that juicy, but I did have it months and months ago, so there you guys go.
I'll take that.
Matan, appreciate it. Thanks so much for coming on the show. I'll look forward to seeing you soon.
Thank you guys for having me.
I have a feeling Matan's mortal lock is going to hit. I think Aaron Rodgers is the clear-cut MVP. Who's even close? Patrick Mahomes, I guess?
Yeah, Derrick Henry.
Okay, yeah. But it's only a quarterback.
Yeah, Matan, his mortal lock is staying away from the game. I think it's tough because like the lines and the over-unders are going to swing and sway so much between now and the actual Super Bowl. It's smart for him to stay away from the game at this point. Active in the comments now, looking to be active on the fan line. We got Jonah coming up next. Always got an opinion surrounding the ever-changing quarterback carousel. Can't wait what it's going to be this week. We've seen murmurings of Roger to 49ers in the comments and more. Jonah, thanks so much for coming on the fan line.
I'll get to my quarterback stuff after, but actually first, I'm probably biased, but I think a lot of football fans would agree with this about the Pro Bowl. I think one of the biggest snubs this year was J.C. Jackson. He had one of the best seasons. I don't think people think, he played in the role when Gilmore was out, but I don't think people understand he had the second most interceptions this year.
Yeah, it's tough, It's hard to have that many interceptions and be there in the rankings and then to not make the Pro Bowl. And this is what the Patriots have not had to fight against for many years, and really what the Jets have kind of fought against with some of their players. Of course, the Jets, one of 5 teams, have no players to make the Pro Bowls. If you're just an irrelevant team and, J.C. Jackson is getting interceptions when his team is down 3 touchdowns, the voters take notice to that. And I think, I think Pro Bowl voting, I'm not sure entirely on the percentages, but I think 1/3 of it is based on fan voting. And I think that definitely plays into a part. He's not a big name. He'll continue to get recognized. He'll continue to get interceptions. I think we can see J.C. Jackson in the Pro Bowl next year.
Yeah.
I think other snubs to consider. I just Googled it real quickly. What thoughts on Ryan Tannehill is considered one of the biggest snubs, playing at an MVP level part of the year. My Jets, Quinnen Williams, was considered a snub. Can maybe comparison to Frank Clark and or maybe Calais Campbell would be the one.
One of your quarterback guy, Ryan Tannehill, not making the Pro Bowl. Fair?
I mean, if you were to tell me how he played in the beginning of the year, I would have said that's ridiculous. But I think as the season progressed, as we got towards the end of the regular season, there were times when you saw Tannehill kind of show he's an overrated quarterback. But I think if he really played what he played in the postseason last year, played in the beginning of the year, I would have said for sure he deserves it.
I also think if this was a normal Pro Bowl year where Patrick Mahomes definitely wouldn't be in the Pro Bowl anymore, then Ryan Tannehill would have snuck in there. So, yeah. All right, let's hear it, Jonah.
Other takes. Welcome, Jonah.
And actually, I want to say, I got two quarterback things, both involving the Patriots.
Okay.
The first one, this was actually by a player on the Bruins. His name is Chris Wagner. He's from Massachusetts.
Okay.
He was doing an interview the other day. He suggested with his friends to have Gardner Minshew be the next quarterback for a few.
Yeah, that's not the move. I don't think that's the move. I think he's exciting. I think he'll win you some crazy games, but I don't think he's the franchise guy.
Talk about
forward.
the Patriots being quarterback they can 2 years in a row, like Cam Newton, then to Gardner Minshew. That's electric. They need to get Jameis Winston next.
Superfan Nav was like unironically in on Jameis Winston coming to the Patriots, and having seen what Cam Newton did, I wouldn't have been so bad after all.
Yeah. And I think for me, if it were up to me, I want Jimmy G back here.
Yeah, you've been vocal about that. It's a pretty price to pay, and I think there's a lot of baggage that comes along with it,
sure.
but it fits on paper.
Oh, for sure. I just feel like he knows the system. He'd be perfect if he can be healthy.
Yeah, I'll ask you this. I know you read the Dynasty book that came out about the New England Patriots. There's some in there and a lot, not in there about Garoppolo's relationship with Brady and his relationship with the organization. And at some point, it's not even about, would the Patriots want him back, but would Jimmy Garoppolo be all gung-ho to march his way back to one Patriot place to be the starting quarterback? I'm not so sure.
I think so. My reason being, if 49ers are so on moving on from him, I think he might feel a little bit betrayed. And will be like, oh, you know what? A team really wants me. So he might feel like I'm being accepted.
Yeah, I agree with you, Jonah, actually, because if I remember this correctly, that Bill Belichick wanted to keep the building, and it was kind of Brady versus Belichick. And so I think the understanding that Brady is somewhere else would lean itself towards Jimmy Garoppolo being happy with the Patriots and Bill Belichick.
Yeah, I think it's really like being betrayed. Like if you're actively, like publicly, like trying to trade someone, you might feel sort of like bad about yourself and want to leave the team. So that's kind of, I know it's a little different, but going on in Houston, Watson sort of feels like he doesn't have enough input on team decision making. So I feel like that's sort of like the whole coaching thing, which actually makes me wonder like how they're gonna approach the whole coaching situation, because it seems like no one really either wants a job or it won't affect Watson's decision.
Yeah, there are definitely a lot of moving parts, and it's hard to get a quarterback in the middle of their contract. And I think that's the main theme, kind of what I'm taking away from you, is it's teams would so much, even if they have to pay a lot, teams would so much rather get a quarterback at the end of their contract, do the dance in free agency, have him come in. It's low pressure, but to try to negotiate and get a quarterback who's already mid-contract on a team, you got to convince the quarterback to come play. You got to convince the team that, they're going to give him enough value. It's a lot of hoops to jump through. And I think the San Francisco 49ers will feel that once free agency hits up. I think the Houston Texans will feel that once free agency hits up. It's definitely an obstacle with so many quarterbacks that are desiring to be starters, but are, right in the middle of their own contracts.
Yeah, it's interesting, especially this year with the salary cap. Most teams in the NFL are over the salary cap, and the quarterback is generally the biggest percentage of that. So a lot's going to be going on this summer.
All right. Well, that's all. Thanks for having me on.
Jonah, appreciate it. Thanks so much.
And Jets and Patriots will be vying for a lot of those free agents this summer. It's looking like there's a lot of salary space on there. Yoni, is there anyone that you think the Patriots are going to be targeting?
Yeah, it's interesting. Last year at this time, the guy I really, really, really wanted the Patriots to go after was AJ Green, and he decided to re-sign with Cincinnati. He played in most of the games of the year, which was good for a guy who had some knee issues. I would still be in on signing a guy like AJ Green. Offensive line, I think they're set. And if they were to go and spend a lot of money on a quarterback, I'd be okay with that too. But I think receiver, is a really, really big need that they'll go out. And I think it's really the Patriot way to go out and get a few really solid guys and not really go for the blue chip, and we've seen it work. The Carolina Panthers went out and didn't spend too much money, got Robbie Anderson, and he did the job really, really well. The Patriots brought in Dante Moncrief in the middle of the season. I'd like to see him contribute a little bit more. We had a question from Facebook. Yes, if you comment on Facebook, we can now see it, asking about the Matt Stafford Derby. Who's going to win that? The Colts look like they're the front runner right now. They're going to trade one veteran quarterback for another with Phillip Rivers retiring. They're even murmuring to the Patriots with Matt Patricia now rejoining the staff, although some people would think that's even more reason he wouldn't sign. Just kind of blinders on, talking about Matt Stafford. Paul,
so I actually love Matt Stafford to the Patriots. I'll tell you why. I think he is someone who has lacked good coaching, who has lacked a consistent in his years with the Lions, but he has proven that he can succeed no matter what. I think if you get him in with a solid coaching staff, that Matt Stafford can be one of the top 10 quarterbacks in the NFL. Right now, I don't think he's ever dropped below 15 in his career. He kind of sits between 10 and 15. You put him on the Patriots, I see him being 8, 6, 7. They obviously need to get some free agents in there with wide receiver as well. But I actually love Matt Stafford to the Patriots.
Yeah, I wouldn't mind it. And again, I think the Patriots can do better. But if I'm thinking about Matt Stafford compared to Cam Newton, I mean, sure, yeah, I'm all for it. We love those takes. Keep them coming for now. We're going to go back to the Pro Bowl. Again, Pro Bowl means a little bit more this year, obviously, because there are no substitutes. So these guys' nominations mean a lot more. And we talked about it a little bit before the show, and we'll talk now. The Dallas Cowboys, the New York Jets, the Cincinnati Bengals, the Jacksonville Jaguars, the Carolina Panthers. 5 teams that finished with no Pro Bowlers. And I'll also throw in the Patriots have 3 Pro Bowlers, but they're all special teams. Surprised that all 5 of those teams don't have Pro Bowlers. Surprised your New York Jets don't have any Pro Bowlers. Your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I mean, I was surprised. I was really surprised when Quinnen Williams didn't get into the Pro Bowl. He was playing actually in the run defense, so I was kind of shocked at that. Honestly, Yoni, when we first talked about this stat, I was saying that I thought 5 teams about didn't usually have players in the Pro Bowl, but you were telling me that is a high amount.
I don't know. I don't have the stats to back it up. It just feels like a lot. And again, we talked about it a little bit pre-production, but you got a guy like James Robinson who had a year in Jacksonville. I think James Robinson could push out Josh Jacobs. I think James Robinson could push out Nick Chubb. There aren't a lot of other guys on those other teams, right? Robbie Anderson was leading the league in receiving yards for a while, but he just didn't have the touchdowns and wasn't playing on a productive enough team to get voted to the Pro Bowl. The Bengals, I understand. I don't think Joe Burrow would have made it. T. Higgins came on too late, obviously. A.J. Green, he wasn't really there. Defensively, they didn't really have anyone stand out. But even the Dallas Cowboys, they're usually good for an offensive lineman or two. Ezekiel Elliott, Amari Cooper, those guys also missed the Pro Bowl.
Yeah, no, I think there's also going to be a lot more snubs this year. Again, with the Pro Bowl not being able to take away the Chiefs and the Buccaneers, one with one of the most elite defenses in the NFL and one of the most elite offenses. So it's definitely going to take away from the amount of people that can make it. But again, still very surprising that the bottom of this league, I would say the Cowboys are definitely the most surprising team to me on that list. It seems like they should have had more talent, especially coming into the year. Like people were talking, if you remember, people were talking this year as, like, I know that people say this every year, but people were really talking this year for Cowboys and Super Bowl hopes, which is just crazy to look back on now. So to go from the beginning of the year having all those Super Bowl hopes to not even a single Pro Bowler, that is a collapse of the season.
Yeah. Also, we got 2 rookies. Chase Young for the Washington football team and Justin Jefferson are representing the 2020 draft class in the Pro Bowl. I think people are buying into a lot of hype with Chase Young. He had 7.5 sacks this year, which is fine. For a rookie, good, not great, but 7.5 sacks, might have been 8.5. That's good enough to get you in the Pro Bowl?
Yeah, I think also if you're watching the game, he's getting doubled all the time. I mean, also, I think something that might go into the hype, actually, Yoni, is that is a really, really good defensive line, and it's underrated. I think that actually helps Chase Young a lot. So I might actually agree with you that he might not deserve it, but because he's kind of the name brand of that elite defensive line, I think that's why he gets all the attention.
Yeah. I misspoke about the New England Patriots. Stephon Gilmore did make the Pro Bowl. He was not a special teamer. Let's go back to the quarterback carousel talking around. Let's go back to the Indianapolis Colts. Question about that. Let's say they don't go with a veteran quarterback like Stafford after Phillip Rivers retires. The season starts tomorrow. Jacoby Brissett is their starting quarterback. And if you ask me, that's not too bad of a situation to be in.
No, but I think they're definitely looking to do better. I mean, I think ever since Andrew Luck was hired, they're like, we have a Super Bowl team and we need to get somewhere. I definitely think they're going to go hard after one of these veteran quarterbacks. I don't know exactly the list of who's going free, but we know Matt Stafford's in there. We know Deshaun Watson. Deshaun Watson's probably not an option for the Colts because they wouldn't trade in division. Dak Prescott. Like, I think they're really, really looking to get one of those guys. Are you implying maybe that they could go a rookie to bring in?
Yeah, they made the playoffs, so their draft pick isn't that high. You know, could they trade up 4 or 5 picks and try to sneak in and get Mac Jones? Maybe. But I think the Colts show that, hey, we can go out in free agency. We can get a very veteran quarterback who can lead us to the postseason. We can do it. You know, if we don't see the guy who's going to fall to us at quarterback in this draft, let's sign a veteran and wait another couple years. We can do it. We did it with Phillip Rivers. I don't know if Phillip Rivers would have been as confident and as productive on other teams like he was with the Indianapolis Colts. That being said, I think if Jacoby Brissett is your starting quarterback, I'm going to say the Colts have a winning season, but don't make the playoffs. I don't think he has that it factor to push them over the Tennessee Titans.
Yeah, no, I agree. And so something interesting, going back to the Jets and Sam Darnold, there's a lot of rumors of Sam Darnold going to the Colts. But my big thing with it is I don't think it's going to happen unless Sam Darnold is being used as a backup for 1 year under someone who's a veteran presence. So unless they bring in like a Matt Stafford, but Matt Stafford's contract is like 3 years. So it would have to be someone who's older if they keep Phillip Rivers. I think Sam Darnold could even work to the Colts as their future, but for to stick with a veteran presence.
Switching to the NFC, similar situation. Drew Brees has not officially retired yet from the NFL, but that's another team that has a pretty competent backup in Jameis Winston, who did what you just said. He sat for a year behind a veteran quarterback. He learned, was on a team that made it to the NFC divisional playoffs. He's a guy who the year before, of course, he led the league in passing yards. Could he be a guy that gets the start for New Orleans or even another team?
Yeah, so I think the Saints are really going to stick with Jameis. I think they saw and have been very vocal about his leadership in the locker room, which is something that is new for Jameis. I think in Tampa Bay, they complained about his leadership skills. So they've been raving about his leadership in the locker room. I think they're really excited about him having been mentored by Drew Brees for a year. I do think this is Drew Brees' last year. I think he's just had too many heartaches and too many lungs pierced for him to continue. So I think Jameis Winston is the answer in New Orleans.
Too many lungs pierced, probably more than one. Another question coming from Facebook, talking about Dak Prescott. We'll go back to him. Obviously, Cowboys could franchise tag him again. He's a guy who a lot of people see has a lot of untapped potential, also maybe not having as much coaching. Does he stick it out for another year in Dallas, or is he also trying to find a new home, maybe a little bit less talent on the field, but more talent on the side?
Yeah, so I think that Jerry Jones, before the year, made a promise to Dak saying that he'll make sure he's signed. Like, pretty much, it was like a vocal in a press conference saying, like, I'm going to make sure we take care of Dak. And I do think they're going to stick to that ultimately. However, it is really interesting. That injury was gruesome. I mean, that is one of those injuries that you get scared a quarterback could come back from, especially if that quarterback is asking for $40+ million. And here's the thing. I still think Dak could get that from other teams, but I think if he's going to stay with the Cowboys, he is going to be accepting a smaller contract.
Yeah, much younger than Stafford, much younger than Ryan, younger than a guy like Rivers who got a big deal. So, that's a good point. I think he has a great rapport with offensive coordinator Kellen Moore. He got some head coaching interviews. Looks like he's going to stay in Dallas, but, he's also a guy who's big in, creating that offense in Dallas. He's done a great job. They'll have Ezekiel Elliott bring in Amari Cooper. Let's move on from the quarterback talk. Let's move on from the offseason talk. We had 2 great games. this Sunday. Let's start with the earlier game, the NFC. Tampa Bay beating Green Bay 31-26 in Green Bay. Say what you will about Tom Brady's performance, but the Tampa Bay Buccaneers become just the fourth team in NFL history to win 3 road games en route to playing in the Super Bowl. Paul, this team is hot. Can they be stopped?
Yeah, so another point to that, they played 3 road games, and now they're going home to Tampa Bay, which is the first time that in history that has happened, which is an unbelievable advantage that I don't think people are talking about. Even though, I get it, the fans aren't there, that is still a crazy advantage for them. That being said, I think the Chiefs are unstoppable and still the best team in the league. But very, very impressed with Tom Brady and the Buccaneers. I think something that isn't being talked about as much is how much Tom Brady might have just had an effect on the locker room and the team culture and the defense. I mean, that defense is I think a lot of this team isn't just Tom Brady being Tom Brady. It's on the field, but Tom Brady off the field was the most beneficial part to this team, allowing them to have the maturity to go on the road 3 times and win to get to the Super Bowl.
Yeah, saw pictures earlier in the week. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers practice field is almost adjacent to their stadium. And as they were practicing for the NFC Championship game, you can see the stadium crew putting up Super Bowl banners, getting ready for that Super Bowl. And the Buccaneers had to look at that all week, but they will be there. I think another big headline for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers coming into this game, they're going to get Antoine Winfield back, their stud second-round pick in Minnesota, and they're also going to get Antonio Brown back, 2 huge players they will get back for the Super Bowl. How much of a difference is that going to make?
Yeah, I think especially Antonio Brown. Tom Brady loves him some Antonio Brown. That's really going to help Antoine Winfield as well. I think the Buccaneers were a beat-up team going into Green Bay, and they still were able to pull it out. And I think, again, that just comes from Bruce Arians, Tom Brady coaching the team up and showing the maturity that they have, that they can do it again. I think they're relatively the same team. Chris Godwin and Mike Evans are the lead, but still. Chiefs are a whole different beast. Chiefs have Travis Kelce still, have Tyreek Hill. Mecole Hardman looked unbelievable. It's like, yeah, the Buccaneers have all this talent, but the Chiefs just have unlimited speed and power. So, unlimited.
The one other thing, again, I want to push one more pro Bucks thing right down your throat and see how you respond. With all that being said about this stud receiving core and Tom Brady on the field and Tom Brady off the field and all the coaching on the sideline, we are seeing a resurgence before our eyes. Leonard Fournette is truly looking like a number 4 overall draft pick. He's taken those carries away from Ron Jones. People forgot LaShawn McCoy has even existed. He's been a huge part of this run. They can rely on him to be the downhill runner they saw in Jacksonville, really playing Pro Bowl caliber football in the playoffs. He's going to give the Chiefs trouble. Is that enough to tip the scales?
No, because they still have Patrick Mahomes. However, you know what I found interesting, and I was watching the game and thinking the same thing. It seems unbelievable to me that Tom Brady always has an amazing rusher, no matter who's behind him. I mean, you go back.
That's not true. I think there were years in New England. I mean, Stephen Ridley had a good year, but I think there were a lot of years in New England, especially the Lawrence Maroney years, the undefeated season, where Tom Brady had to do it by himself. I think as of late, when you look at Tom Brady's, 35 plus.
I would agree. Definitely late in his career. But for me, it just feels is Tom Brady doing that? Is he doing something that's making everyone run better? Or is he literally just handing it off I don't know.
I mean, look, if you're Leonard Fournette and you're on waivers, you got to be praying that the Tampa Bay Buccaneers pick you up. And, Rex, also your former coach, Rex Ryan, made a comment on Get Up on ESPN on Sunday. He said, you got to understand that the Patriots will go so good and people wanted to come play there. It's not because they wanted to play for Bill Belichick. It's because they wanted to play with Tom Brady. And we saw that with Leonard Fournette, and we see that with Antonio Brown. And, we're not seeing that as much with the Patriots. That all these years, guys take hometown discounts. Wes Welker, Randy Moss, Darrelle Revis, Brandon Brown are coming for a year. Guys like that. But it's more so because they wanted to play with Tom Brady. They wanted him as a teammate, and less so because they wanted to play with Bill Belichick. I don't know how much truth there is to that statement, but, that's how you get a stacked team, because Tom Brady, you get a chance to play with him, you take advantage.
Yeah, and I'm going to turn around the questions to you. So, Yoni, who are you rooting for in the Super Bowl? I think it's pretty conflicting, with the storylines of Patrick Mahomes maybe de-goating Tom Brady we were talking about before, or maybe Tom Brady on a different team and jealousy is there. I'm curious to hear what your thoughts are.
Yeah, de-goating is definitely my new favorite word. Not word of the day, but certainly word of the month at least. I'm not worried about it right now if Patrick Mahomes wins this game. And to be honest, like, maybe I can just be a human being and watch a football game and not have to root for anybody. I get texts and calls and people emailing me. I was like, who are you rooting for? Who are you rooting for? Like, you got Brady on one side, but then, like, you don't want to root for. I was like, hey, maybe I could just sit on my fucking couch and watch a football game and, like, enjoy it. Like, is that an option? Is there an option to just be, like just fan of football? I don't know. Again, I'm wearing the Brady Michigan jersey, which is, like, ambivalent support. Again, as a Brady fan, I'm not worried about Patrick Mahomes de-goating him if he wins this one game. I think it's fun to root for Tampa Bay because they're a 5 seed, and it's fun to root for the underdog to come in and beat the 1 seed that won it last year, Tom Brady aside. Yeah, so I really don't know. It's a good question. I'm not sure. I kind of have these reasons on both sides, and I may not come up with anything when that ball.
Well, let's hone in on that de-goating conversation. So Patrick Mahomes, obviously one of the youngest quarterbacks to be doing what he's doing. Unbelievable career thus far. People talk about that he could already be in the Hall of Fame if he retired today. Do you think that he is on his way to de-goating? And if so, what would he have to do?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing that he would have to do, and the biggest reason people are, giving Brady the GOAT status is because how long he's been great, right? If Patrick Mahomes is still going to Super Bowls in his 40s, then yeah, he might very well take that away. But if Patrick Mahomes has these amazing record-breaking seasons and then decides to call it quits at 32, then I don't know if you can call him the GOAT. Michael Jordan also played well into his 30s, and he was a great player, as did guys like Bill Russell. LeBron James is getting up there in years. Wayne Gretzky, he played well into his 30s. So I think that's the biggest thing. And the hard part about that answer is we're not going to see that come to fruition for a while, right? Patrick Mahomes still just 25 years old. Yes, he's having a Hall of Fame career as it is. He's putting up those numbers, but I think what makes Brady really special is because the guy is 43 years old and was top 5 in the league in passing yards and passing touchdowns. I mean, that's crazy. So, if Patrick Mahomes can be 43 years old and be top 5 in the league in rushing and passing yards and touchdowns and then have more Super Bowls, then yeah, I guess he's de-goated. But it's going to be a long time till we have sufficient data to make a verdict on that decision.
Yeah, and especially if Brady gets a 7th year. I mean, it's going to be tough for anyone to ever match that. Along those lines, though, I think the only argument against the Tom versus time concept is if, Patrick Mahomes has a favorable contract for the next 5 years. If he just bangs out 5 Super Bowls in a row or something unbelievable like that, that's where the tides can change. Personally, I am rooting for Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs just because I think they're a really fun team to watch. And Tom Brady made me cry for many years, so fuck that guy.
Yeah, I was in the camp that I kind of felt I was neutral about both games coming in to the weekend, but then when I saw the Buccaneers won, I really wanted the Bills to win because I wanted Tom Brady to just crush the hearts of Bills fans one more time. So I was I wasn't rooting hard for the Bills, but I was like, wouldn't it be funny if the Bills Tom Brady's in the other conference, we don't have to deal with him, and they get to the Super Bowl and Tom Brady beats him. That in my heart of hearts is truly what I was rooting for, but knew that, that would have been really tough to happen. That's a good segue. Let's talk a little about the other game. 38-24, Chiefs get the win. The Bills jump out to a 9-0 lead. I think people are already starting to forget that about this game, but Patrick Mahomes was down 24-0 to the Texans in the playoff last year. That really didn't seem to faze him. Chiefs are entirely a tough team to beat at home. And did you know Patrick Mahomes has not lost a game by more than 1 score yet in his entire career? So he's either going to crush you or you're just barely going to beat him. The Bills recovered an onside kick at the end to make it exciting. But yeah, the Chiefs were definitely the better team in that game.
Yeah, it really is unbelievable that the Chiefs, no matter how far they're down, they never feel like they're going to lose just because they can explode in a second. You were watching the game, the announcers were talking another 50-yard play from the Chiefs, another 30-yard play from the Chiefs. Mecole Hardman had the mess up earlier in the game and then exploded for the rest of the game. It's really unbelievable what the Chiefs are doing. And I think the thing with the Bills is they're a really good team and they have an awesome foundation, but I think they really, truly were a year away. The Chiefs have been here very consistently for the last 2 years. They made the Super Bowl last year, hosted the AFC Championship 2 years before. So I think it really came down to maturity that the Bills needed to get here so then they can make the next step next year. I think they're winning the AFC East next year by far. I think they'll be back in the AFC Championship again. Josh Allen looks awesome. So Bills fans, rejoice. You have an amazing team. You didn't just screw up your one opportunity again.
And similar to what, I kind of saw as a New England Patriots fan, I think a lot of guys in free agency would be like, oh, this Bills team is a contender. This Bills team made the conference championship. Maybe I'll take $2 or $3 million less a year and go play with Buffalo. I think you'll see that from a lot of guys. You already saw that from a guy like Josh Norman, who was an all-pro caliber player. He's fallen off the mountain a little bit, but he took less money to come play with the Bills. And he seemed to, play really well. So I think you could see that a lot in free agency where the Bills do start to build. They're going to be back. 13-3 in the regular season is nothing to scoff at. The Miami Dolphins are going to be coming for them, though. That's the one thing that makes me nervous about the Bills in the future is that the Patriots are going to retool. Even the Jets have the number 2 overall pick. This division, it's not like the Patriots in like 03, 04, 05, on. This division is not theirs to run away with. They are going to have some tough competition. The AFC East is now one of the most
absolutely. I mean, Deshaun Watson's also
really
rumored to the 2 teams he's rumored to go to right now is the Jets and the Dolphins. If he goes to either of those, I mean, they're immediately playoff contenders on either team, in my opinion. So I really do think that this division is heating up. Bills, I think Josh Allen looks good, and as long as he's being paid under his rookie contract, I think they'll be good. My concern with the Bills does come when they have to pay Josh Allen, and Josh Allen has to prove his wits. He might not have Stephon Diggs for so long. He might not have all these weapons and good offensive line and a good defense. So we'll see how that goes. Moving on to Super Bowl predictions, not just who we're rooting for. What's an interesting storyline about this game is these 2 quarterbacks are the last 2 quarterbacks to represent the AFC in a Super Bowl. So Tom Brady being 2 years ago winning against the Rams and Patrick Mahomes last year. Actually, the last 2 Super Bowl champions are playing in this game. So we're not getting a new face in the Super Bowl, or a new Super Bowl winner, but really exciting stuff. Yoni, what are your predictions for the game?
So I'm going to go with, former host of the show, Jason Resnick, in the 2018 season said, I picked the Chargers to beat the Patriots in the divisional game. I picked the Chiefs to beat the Patriots in the conference championship. I just can't bet against Tom Brady again. I'm done. I'm tired. My heart or my brain is telling me to just take the better team and take the Chiefs. But Tom Brady has made me look like a fool on this show, live on FanCred, Facebook, and YouTube too many times. I mean, I obviously picked them over Washington too many times over the course of the last couple shows. And you know what? I'm not going to let him do it to me again. I'm going to pick the Tampa Bay Buccaneers to win Super Bowl 55 in Tampa. And if you're twisting my arm to put a number on it, I'm going to go Tampa.
Is it going to be a high-scoring game or low-scoring game? Because I think we got –
this is going to be like a 28-24.
I mean, I'm still going to go with the Chiefs. I just think this team is by far and away the best team in the NFL. I think you and I saw this coming into the season when we both picked the Chiefs, that this roster is just unbelievably stacked, and Patrick Mahomes can't do no wrong. I mean, I really do think it's going to be very similar looking to last year's Super Bowl against the 49ers. I think the Buccaneers are going to get out to an early lead. It's going to be about 10-point lead, same thing as last Super Bowl in the last quarter. And Patrick Mahomes and Andy Reid are going to find a way to win the game. I would say pretty close to the same score. I'd probably go maybe a little higher scoring. I'd maybe go like 34, 35 to 30, somewhere in that range. So I just think that these quarterbacks are really going to come swinging. So, yeah,
I see that too. I mean, I think these defenses will be prepared too. You have some great secondaries on the other side, and Buccaneers have one of the best run defenses in the league, so we'll see. Moving on from there, we're not going to have a show next week, but the week after that, after the Super Bowl, we will be back in our regular time slot. However, in that week in between, we usually do a Facebook Live Super Bowl pre-show, but because of COVID, we're not going to be together for that. However, the pre-show still goes on. So we have our prediction show, who's going to win Offensive Rookie of the Year, or who's going to win it next year, passing leader, number 1 overall pick next year, things like that. We're still going to do that, but it's going to be on Zoom. It's going to be fun, and we're going to get to have even more faces on. So we're going to have the faces from last season because we got to make fun of their takes. So if you're watching, you're grandfathered in. That's Adam Newman, Nav Pandy, and Jason Resnick, and of course myself and Paul. They'll be on, and then who knows what other cast and characters
cannot
will be
wait.
added
This
to
is
the
my
lineup.
favorite episode in the entire year because I just remember how much of a dumbass I look at the end of the year. So I look forward to it.
Yes, some highlights, some personal highlights. We had David Carlos Levine 2 years ago, who in a window of 100 yards predicted exactly how many rushing yards Nick Chubb would have in a season, which was crazy. On the same prediction show, he called Patrick Mahomes the most overrated quarterback in football. So anything can
unbelievable,
happen.
Literally unbelievable. I think I said 2 years back, not this most previous year, but this season, I made a bet with Nav and Adam that the Jets would overtake the Patriots and Bills and be the best team in the AFC East. So I had to Venmo Nav $20 yesterday. He reminded me.
Wow. I never know how those bets turn out.
Oh, me and Nav signed the notes paper. So we have a note sheet in his app, and we both put our signature down. I'm sure he could steal my identity one day if he wanted to.
Wow.
But
official stuff. So look out for that. Invitations going out soon. But for those just watching on the app, we'll take a little break. We'll see you in 2 weeks. Pro Bowl ceremonies, NFL honors, stuff to watch. Final thoughts. Syracuse got swamped by Virginia tonight, but they beat ranked Virginia Tech a couple nights ago. New York Knicks,
they were fine in the beginning of the season, but now we're going downhill as we usually do, and we won't get a good lottery pick, so we'll be indefinitely bad for the rest of my life.
Yeah, that is how it goes. All right, well, your Super Bowl predictions, you can still post them on Facebook, on YouTube. Give us a share on the app and also on FanCred. We love it. So that was barely English, but we appreciate everyone who came on to watch. Thanks so much. Go football. Not go
I agree.
Buccaneers,
Go football.
Chiefs.
Woo
Just go
sports.
football.
Go NFL.
Woo sports. We like sports and we don't care who knows.
So long.
Next time.
So long.